Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller, and welcome to this edition of Weather to Watch. February almost over now. It's the 26th of February, 2025. Well, here's what I'm keeping an eye on. Still pretty quiet across the lower 48 here for a little bit. Still chilly in the northeast. A series of lows with the cold fronts dragging behind them will keep them in winter mode in the northeast, even part of the Great Lakes states here for the next several days. There's a weak front now in the central U.S., but it's hardly able to kick up any precipitation. It's pretty much a dry front. A large area of rain is going to be developing beginning on Sunday and going through early next week, part of a pattern change that will also bring the chance of severe thunderstorms to areas of the south-central U.S. Next week, and maybe even beyond that into the central portion of the month of March by then. So some interesting developments there, a little pattern change. Here's a visible satellite loop for today. You can kind of find the front on here, but boy, it's not doing much. It's right here. Actually, those clouds are behind the front. The front's already down to the boot heel at this recording. So low pressure developing here and moving aloft like this, and get used to seeing lows travel through this part of the world because that's where the storm track is going to be laid down. Otherwise, mostly on this map, high clouds and very little in the way of precipitation. The 500 millibar flow features a couple of little short waves here and here, all embedded in sort of a longer wave trough pattern here. So the difference is that this flow pattern does not take air from the high latitude, so it's not real cold behind this particular weather system. The next one is a little colder, but like I said, it has its aim focused on the northeastern U.S., not the whole U.S. If we take a look at a larger 500 millibar flow, I use the initialization at noon here for the high resolution model. And this is just, you can see wind speeds better with this, but you still have that double trough area here, and with stronger winds on the front side of both of these troughs here. But again, this is not tap out. Next time I do this, I'll probably grab a GFS model because it would show the data more up into Canada. But I think you get the idea. Even though there are areas of low pressure developing, none of them are particularly efficient at producing precipitation, and they're not real strong in terms of cold air either. Here's the lower 48 surface weather map. We have one low pressure center really that kind of primarily grabs your attention. That's right there over Illinois with a trailing cool front. So the winds have already shifted across Missouri and across a pretty large section of Illinois already as this system continues to move this way. So the winds are whipping in behind that, providing some cooler air. Still in the 60s through most of Missouri, though. Even the air not that cold compared to what we've been used to for the last, say, 14 days. So temperatures in the 50s in Iowa. In fact, if we just continue to go up to that part of the world here, we really don't see anything too terribly cold. In fact, you have to go all the way up into northern parts of Minnesota to get the temperatures below freezing. So again, not a real strong push of cool air on that particular weather system there. If we zoom out again, the west, high pressure is firmly in control of Idaho and all of the western U.S. And then on the East Coast, one low is kind of leaving up there. So some pretty good winds coming in behind that still up in Maine. But for the most part, the weather across the lower 48 is, at this time at least, pretty quiet. Well, there aren't a lot of advisories across the U.S. Once again, we have to turn sort of to the northwest and the north-central part of the country where we have flood watches in parts of north-central and northeastern Montana. Just a handful of high wind warnings left up there in Montana, right along the Montana-Idaho border. Well, not quite there. Actually, right on the front range of the Rockies there. These are for fire weather here, and also a red flag warning for parts of south-central Colorado. Red flag warning, by the way, is a outdoor burning warning that the Weather Service issues. Well, rainfall is pretty sparse right now, but it will be maturing here. This is the total precipitation issued by the National Weather Service for Sunday through Monday. You can already see an area here developing where rain is kind of centered over southwest Missouri, south central Missouri. Also, more rain coming ashore in California with mountain snows there. This is just that 2-day period, Sunday through Monday. If I let the computer models look at the entire next 7 days, it's also popping up the rain that is going to break out here and here, but we're adding to it even more, to the point where when you see the purple transition right here, That's 1 inch of rain, and so we have an inch and a half, maybe a little bit more, through parts of Tennessee, parts of Pennsylvania, and those are areas that have gotten pretty saturated with long-term flood warnings still in effect through many of those rivers in Tennessee and Kentucky. So even though it will be several days before that falls, hopefully we can get some drainage and that impact won't be as bad. I like showing this map. It just shows where low pressure centers are tracking, and we have the main flow, if you will, definitely moving through the northeastern and also the Great Lakes states for the next couple of days, with nothing developing so far to the southwest of the country. So that's, again, low track. I think that goes through, it goes through the first in the morning, so Saturday morning. That's as far as this can see, basically. We can also look at above normal temperature pattern here. This is the high temperatures expected on Thursday. The numbers are the actual highs. Chicago will be up to 44, Dallas 68, Denver 60. The colors here, this is indicating a much above normal weather pattern here in the north central U.S. and also in parts of the Carolinas and also much of the interior of California especially. And this will advance just to Saturday. These little clipper systems, these lows I was telling you about, are going to drag a cold front back down like this. So that's what causes those temperatures to sink a little bit in the Great Lakes states. And eventually, like I said, that'll affect the Northeast. But still, much of the country is above normal. And then the effects of that front move to the New England area. Meanwhile, the central U.S. warms up, and what will also happen on Monday is an increase of Gulf moisture through here, and that's what's going to set the stage for, I think, some severe weather activity down in that part of the world. Let's look at the long range and the steering currents, which I always interpret as the 500 millibar flow. That's a good way of looking at that, and that's what you're looking at right here. So it separates storm systems out, extreme warm from cold. So if this is how it was initialized, we're going to use the ensemble version of the GFS Global Forecast System model, which goes out a fair length. And you'll see some pretty important changes here in the flow. This is what it looks like on this Wednesday afternoon. And then we kind of tick away here. We get a reinforcing shot of cold air right there behind that weather system. So the Northeast will remain pretty chilly throughout the first several days here of the latter part of this week and even into the weekend. But on the other hand, we have a big old ridge of high pressure developing out here, and another little storm that we have to keep an eye on here, and even more that are coming in behind that. Let's move it further ahead and see what we're talking about here. So we have another little shot right there, by the way, another Arctic front that will only go into the Northeast and maybe the UP of Michigan and those areas, and not really affecting the U.S. the way the last couple have. And if we go further, so that map right there, that's Saturday. Actually, that's Friday overnight into Saturday. Here is Sunday. Now, this little storm system right here is something that might be worth watching. I just don't think it'll have much to work with, though, in terms of warm advection or moisture coming back from the Gulf, since I think it'll be partially blocked by whatever front trails out of this storm this way. But this one behind it is the one that I've been hinting at on this particular video, I think going two back now to even Friday. This is a severe weather potential for the south, deep south, and we'll see exactly how that lines up here. So this map is Sunday at noon. So we're going to go to Monday right about, here's actually Tuesday at noon, and this is a classic setup right here for severe weather in this corridor right here. And I've got a bunch of maps I'm about to show you to help clarify that exact point. Well, generally speaking, Sunday through Wednesday, there are two main severe weather areas. There's this severe storm potential right here, and then there's also this heavy rain potential. And I outlined the heavy rain already, but we can dive deep on this severe storm forecast. Take a look at the next slide here. This is the day 7 or Tuesday severe weather outlook, and basically that's a copy of what I just showed you. But Arkansas, parts of Texas, much of Louisiana, Mississippi under a severe weather threat for Tuesday. That may spread this way, by the way, for the late night hours or even Wednesday repeating. If we look at pattern recognition, this is the SIPS model. It's just a way of looking back over past analog events, basically, and seeing with these rough conditions, 500 millibar flow, moisture, all these things, what happened in the past. And so there's a bullseye basically just about over that same area I showed you on the last graphic. So that pretty much defines the Tuesday severe weather outlook parameter. It does have it coming up maybe a little bit more north into southern Missouri. It just depends on how that low develops and how the moisture can track northward for that. If we look at SIP's tornado threat, there's a bullseye on that same day right here. And I've showed you that a couple of times already this year, and that's not terribly unusual for that part of the world for this time of the year at all. From Northern Illinois University, this is the supercell week 2 accumulated. So this is actually 12Z on the 5th. So it's a little after the Tuesday event, but it does show the potential for some severe weather that next day. It's actually a several, week 2, so it does show smatterings of severe weather. This, by the way, is that Sunday system. I don't think that'll amount to much. But if we take a look at week 2, a different model, this actually does start at 0Z on the 5th, so that's 6 p.m. on Tuesday. So it does show a pretty good supercell composite area there in that area we showed you. But look at this catch on fire. This is the week 3 supercell accumulated composite look, and it shows a much more a deeper, more robust area of moisture and instability and supercell potential that goes all the way from just about coastal Texas all the way up into the Ozarks, and including much of Missouri and Kansas, well, southeast corner of Kansas anyway, eastern Oklahoma, still down to Louisiana. Arkansas seems to be almost front and center on that particular outlook. So that's going to be in the middle of March. That's the 12th through the 18th. And of course, the further out you go, the more variability you'll start to get. But if I'm looking for consistent signals, that's been one of them. And then finally, we'll take a look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This is valid Tuesday through Saturday of next week. So much of the country is still pretty warm with cooler conditions in California, just a result of that storm track coming ashore and becoming active with precipitation and cloudiness down there. And you can see there's a bullseye of rain right there, as I told you about. And then there's this above normal precipitation. You can interpret that area as what I'm showing you here, shifting more to the northeast with time next week. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.